Okay, cool. So here with my friend Niv from ClickCease, and what we're going to be getting into is the fun topic of all the different things that they're doing from a paid strategy perspective. And I've been at the receiving end of a lot of their ads across Facebook, LinkedIn, and haven't seen as much on the search side, but certainly LinkedIn, Facebook, I've seen quite a bit of stuff that you guys have put out, which is awesome, by the way. I love your videos. They're great. They're just very authentic, answer core questions, pain points, and I think they really hit the notes, especially given that you guys go after agencies like us as well as other SaaS and tech companies, I'm sure. But what I wanted to kind of start with is one thing that everyone on the B2B side always talks about. And my perspective, and I'd be curious if you have a different one, is that paid ads are an activity. They're not a strategy in and of itself, right? You still need a goal marketing strategy with the proper foundational elements in place in order for those activities to be successful. But the big thing that I think a lot of marketers leave out is like the actual goals and the way they think about measuring the success of these paid activities. And clearly, like, we'd all want them to all just run back up to revenue, but it's not that simple. We've got brand awareness campaigns, we've got other create demand programs, and other different things running in the paid world that aren't always direct response. So I kind of wanted to hear from you, or just kind of jam a little bit on your thoughts on like how you guys do goal setting with respects to your paid campaigns, like what metrics you guys are looking at, and how do you determine if a campaign or a series of campaigns has been successful? How do you guys think through that?
Great. So first of all, thanks for the intro.
Sure.
It's always great to hear people who noticed our ads, what they thought about it. So first of all, I think that the paid ads, and it's not really matter on which channels you are addressing those paid ads and creatives. You have a strategy, and you need to be aligned with it. You need to understand it. You need to build your budget according to those goals and needs. And if your company is changing the features of your product or rebranding or just want to grow, it's a different types of direction, which the paid marketing activity or the acquisition entirely should be adjust and act accordingly. So you really need to understand the strategy of the company, the product, the pain points from your side as an employee, and of course as a customer point of view. And there are different metrics and KPIs that you could look at. And you mentioned the ROI or profitability. But there are campaigns that you choose to operate and spend on, and the goal is brand awareness. And then how you can determine what is success or on which KPI you need to monitor, it's a bit different. Perhaps in brand awareness, it will be impressions for your brand keywords, or increasing conversion rate in another campaigns. Maybe it have some impact, which is not direct impact. So it's really difficult, and I think that you need to. At the moment, it's the beginning of the year, and we just closed the budget for 2023 with the challenges that we are all aware of.
Less budget, less people, and still the same goals, right?
Yeah, and when your company is the product is a SaaS company which approaches businesses, and you know that their budgets are decreasing, and they always in the state of mind on which products or platforms we need to pay and what we can avoid and reduce. And so you need to think about them as well.
Right.
And with ClickCease specifically, it's a new category, and it's the problem that we are facing and the solution that we are offering to our customers. It's not something that everyone already knows. about it. It's not like that we are advertising shoes and everyone needs shoes and you don't need to explain them
So you're
why
saying
they
like
need shoes.
people aren't aware as much about who ClickCease is and what they do, and then maybe also the problem of what you guys are solving is what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in our case, it's easy to understand the importance of the educational parts of the acquisition aspects or the paid
Mm-hmm.
marketing aspects. Um, and it's not just driving more leads or generating more sales and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Got it. I think this is always the tough part, right? Because I think, right now, as you know all too well, with budgets just being released, you've got so much scrutiny around all the different campaigns that are being run. Everyone wants to know that each ad campaign, channel, et cetera, is leading to revenue. But I think you know as well as I do is that it would be great if the world worked where you just put $1 into LinkedIn and you got 5 out every single time in a very black and white manner. That would mean that attribution's been solved and there's no longer any problems at all with any of that. And that's just not the case. And it's true of not just paid alone, it's true of other channels that are not paid as well. So I think the tough part for me is having those conversations with a lot of our clients because it's not an easy one. And generally, like our approach, I'm curious if you guys think about it differently, is that, each campaign could have a different goal, right? For example, a lot of the retargeting campaigns that we run, the goal is predominantly getting people to convert. And, it might have a different goal based on 30-day, 90-day, 180-day retargeting audiences if we split them up. But there's different goals. So not every campaign, to your point, I agree with you. It doesn't all just bubble back up straight to revenue. And then we're like, oh shit, turn it off. Like it hasn't led to any revenue in the last, XYZ months. We still need to look at things with the lens of, all right, this was the initial goal of the campaign. We know we're not going to have perfect touch points across it. There are going to be impressions, there's going to be video views, there's going to be other things that are happening. But if we look at the broader funnel and broader inbound as a GTM motion, then we should see some increase after running these programs. So how do you navigate? Is that a tough conversation with your boss? Like when you guys have these conversations internally and you're spending tens of thousands of dollars on paid ads and you're like, well, so here's the deal.
Yeah,
Is that an issue for you guys?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that happens once in a while with
Yeah.
every boss, with every colleague, and with every you are going to conferences and meet colleagues from other companies, and you see that we are all facing the same challenges,
Hmm.
and those challenges are changing from time to time
Yeah.
because of the algorithm changes within the platforms or regulation um, and other aspects.
Hmm.
You need to be very agile. Like you need
Hmm.
to keep experimenting. You need to dig deeper into your reports and data.
Hmm.
Um, and like there is you're looking at the UI of your I don't know, Facebook, YouTube, Google.
Hmm.
It's not really matter which platform, and you're comparing the numbers that you're seeing there in other platforms such as Google Analytics or
Hmm.
BI, or your own internal reports, and you're seeing different numbers and different truth.
Yeah. Yep.
The truth is somewhere in the middle, and you need to navigate between this complexity of the user journey. Um,
Well, that's so true. Just to chime in on what you just said there, because the big thing that we see is a lot of our clients use a combination of HubSpot and Salesforce. And when you're looking at in-channel data from, say, Google Ads, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., we use API pulls to pull that data directly into dashboards. And a lot of times, then we'll also look at lagging indicators in the CRM. But the odd thing is that many times the lead numbers or conversion numbers in channel won't match up with what's in the CRM. And this is always a difficult one because everyone would clearly like those numbers to match. But there's all sorts of issues, as you know them. We don't have to get into all the technical details, but the predominant issue is that a lot of times, your CRM might be looking at a multi-touch model in terms of attribution versus the channel looking at last touch. Clearly, the channels want to take credit for as much as they can as possible, right? So you may have a situation where you've got conversions a conversion on Facebook, a conversion on LinkedIn, but they're the same person. They're not two different people. And so each of these channels is obviously incentivized to, give as much credit for these things. But yeah, I wanted to move on from something from that. I think that kind of gives a little bit of a review. So it sounds like, just to kind of recap on like strategy, or in terms of more the goals, is that really it's like each campaign has different goals. I think we're in agreement there, and you guys do that as well. We're also in agreement too that the brand awareness campaigns, typically you're looking at things like you said, impressions or the amount of content that's been consumed, or maybe video views, things like that. So that's how you think about those types of campaigns. Then you've got your others, which I guess I didn't hear from you directly on this, but in terms of like your more performance marketing campaigns, I assume clearly it's kind of the typical, right? Conversions, the number of inbound demo requests, or people trying out the product, et cetera, pipeline revenue, et cetera. Anything I'm missing there, or is that kind of the way you guys think about it?
Yes, so our product is a SaaS, and we have a free trial of like 7 days that you can just look at the reports and start to feel the added value that our product and the platforms are providing you.
Yeah.
So we have more steps in the funnel when we are analyzing our data, but our campaigns, the main KPIs that we are looking at are cost per sign-up, cost per registrations, cost per paying user or acquisition, if you want to call it like that. But we are differing, like we have different customers, and it's different on the amount of traffic and size and stuff like that. So we are trying to understand that each region, each kind of business will generate different value and have different lifetime value or churn. Like there are other metrics in the funnel, deep in the funnel. So it's tougher, but it's more interesting in my opinion. So every campaign, even the performance campaigns that we their main target will be generate leads or
Okay.
sales. They
Yep.
will have a different numeric value or numeric target. Amount of sales, which will be different, and the cost of them will be
Right.
different.
Exactly. Totally agree. Well, let's jump to something that I think always comes up a lot with the conversations that we have with different folks. And I'll give my 2 cents after you kind of take a stab at it, unless you want me to go first. But I think the one really important thing that I've noticed for you guys is that, at least from what I've seen so far, you guys don't do a ton of top of funnel type content from what I've seen. I think there's some, but it seems to be mostly focused on product marketing ads and making people aware of a problem, which is that fraudulent clicks clearly are decreasing the amount of spend you have because it's stealing money from the various different ad channels that you guys protect, like Bing, Google Ads, etc. But I wanted to get into like how you guys layer the content between some of these, this cold and warm layer. So you've got all this product marketing content. Correct me if I'm wrong on this as I stop talking here, if that's not the case, in terms of like top of funnel content versus product marketing ads. But I think there are two very distinct types of buckets, and then budget should be allocated accordingly to those. But how do you guys think about that? And I think, just to add the context, cold versus warm for me, it just means people that are not familiar with ClickCease. So there's that group of people. Those are the cold people that haven't heard of you, and we need to make them aware of ClickCease. And then the warm people clearly are the people that are in a retargeting layer. They've either engaged with an ad or they've been to our website, that type of thing. Probably preaching to the choir, but just wanted to say that out loud for anyone listening in case they didn't know the difference. So how did you guys think about the content you put into those two different layers? Like, what do you guys?
Yeah, so a great question. I think that every company is approaching a bit different to those kind of terminology and cold versus warm layers. But I think that we are trying to build and create and execute different creatives. Some of them will be more educational, some of them will be more sophisticated or already like top of the funnel, like you mentioned. But we have a lot of different assets that we are building and planning.
Mm-hmm.
from blogs and emails to knowledge base videos and materials or assets that their purpose is to build trust and credibility.
Mm-hmm.
While we need to remember that most of the the um, the people who noticed our ad and watched our creative video um, or clicked on our ad, most of them didn't aware of of this topic, of
Mm.
the go-to-market security category, of the click fraud, the invalid traffic out
Mm-hmm.
there, the fake web. So um, at the moment, from the size of ClickCease, the awareness of this topic, we choose to allocate more budget into
Mm.
this, the educational markets, um,
Mm-hmm.
and the awareness, and not at top of the funnel. Although we are working on it, we are trying to diversify our marketing assets and ads and campaigns in order to
Mm-hmm.
cover all of the different aspects of it.
Okay, so just to maybe recap this, make sure I heard you right. So in the cold layer, predominantly most of it's on brand awareness type campaigns to make people aware of the problem that ClickC solves. So more so, to me, I would kind of categorize those as product marketing ads. Typically, it's like, pointing out a problem and or a benefit of the way that ClickCease can solve that problem, and then sending people to not necessarily a unique landing page, but sending people to product marketing pages on your website so they can get educated and better understand, okay, got it. I get what ClickCease does. I get this is an issue. This is potentially something I should put in my radar, right? So that's the cold layer. Anything else that you guys put into that in terms of the type of content, or is it just predominantly focused on that for right now?
Yeah, I think that you covered it.
Okay, cool. And then so now we move into retargeting, right? So now we've got people that have engaged with those ads. So now I've clicked on the ad, I've gone to the website, but I didn't convert. So then what does the strategy look like there? What are you guys kind of doing in terms of the bottom of the funnel to get them to either sign up for a trial, for the 7-day trial, like you mentioned, or just clearly start paying for the tool, one or the other?
So we want to show them first a different messaging, whether if it's more features that we
Yeah.
are providing, or the added value, or to show them data points relevant to their industries.
Hmm.
What is the percentage of invalid traffic in 2022 on your industry? Something which is that
Hmm.
is more personalized for them.
Hmm.
And you mentioned the landing page, so also if they will click on our ads, the remarketing ads, and they will enter to our page, they will see a different messaging than the previous one. We don't want them to enter to the same landing page because they already been there and
Hmm.
they didn't do anything. They didn't sign up, they didn't
Right.
register, etc.
Right, exactly. Got it. Okay. So that makes sense. Because I've seen the Neil Patel social proof. I mean, clearly that's something,
Yeah,
I mean, it's a good reference, right? Clearly, having Neil there, because just about every marketer knows of his name. And
you want to
so it sounds
increase
like, what's
trust.
that?
You want to increase the trust and the credibility across all the different assets that you have, and this is one approach that we are trying.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I mean, I think you're onto it, generally speaking. I mean, we approach it a similar way. So, I mean, my take is, certainly in the beginning, when you're like a Series A to Series C company, especially, there should always be a healthy starting point and mix of just product marketing ads, kind of like the ones that we're talking about today with you in the cold layer, to make people aware of the problem, the benefits, and what this thing actually does. And I think that too often people spend all their time promoting gated assets and all their money goes to those campaigns, of which lots of times that content doesn't really, maybe there's a dotted line back to the product, but a lot of times I'm kind of left with like, I don't even know what this product does. I keep seeing all this content from them, but I have no clue what they do, and a lot of times they're not leading people back to the website. they're just using lead gen forms, and none of the traffic actually gets to the website to even do a little bit of bouncing around, unless of course they just type in ClickCease and then go find it. So I think like that's a big thing. So I agree with you on that. Usually we're doing kind of a mix of product marketing and then top of funnel content, depending on the goals of the company and where they are, starting with product marketing being the first. And then in the retargeting layer, like you said, social proof for sure. So it's like testimonials, case studies, giving people context. Another thing that I know you guys have done, I think I don't know what layer, but I have seen some kind of, I wouldn't call it a straight up like demo or contextualized demo of ClickCease, but you guys do these videos that are kind of more like a how it works type of situation. And they're kind of animated little UI clips up at the top right and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a pseudo kind of demo. But a lot of times we'll actually use contextualized demos inside the retargeting layer. And that's literally like a 2 to 3 minute demo where you're like, okay, so you know the situation when you've got all of these clicks that are fraudulent, right? Like, how does this actually even work? Like, what does this look like? And then you say, all right, let me show you how this actually happens. So you go into ClickCease and you blah, 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 right? And you don't get like super technical. You keep it short to the point and around a pain point that they have. And we've used those a lot of times as well. And then the last is what you just said, which is kind of like a variation of product marketing ads again, but back to a landing page that maybe not it's unique. It could still be on the website, but it's something that's a little more bottom of the funnel, to your point, either with a different message or just with more of a call to action to take the next step if they're ready. And if they're not, then they can keep exploring the website, so on and so forth. So yeah, I agree with you there. Anything you'd add to that or anything I missed?
No, I think that you covered it all. And I think that, as you mentioned, demos and videos, which are short and accurate, are amazing to show the ease of use, the benefits of it. Yeah.
Let's chat about that because that's a good segue. So there was one video, or there's multiple videos that you guys have done clearly. But what I'm curious about is a lot of people I talk to, they struggle with creating video content. It's not easy. It takes time. And a lot of your stuff is actually, I would put in the more, not fully like super top end high production, but I definitely put it in like not just taking a loom or a soapbox, type of video and walking through something. These are definitely more polished videos that you guys are putting out there in the market. And so what I'm curious about is like, do you guys have a template process for the way that you think about scripting those out? And the secondary question to that is like, are those ClickCease employees or do you guys hire out actors to do this? Like, what's the thought process around like how you guys develop video creative? Because I think we're always looking for like a better script template or something that kind of just hits on the right points and keeps it nice, short, and sweet so we can drive the results for our clients. Anything that you guys have found success with or a formula that maybe you're using in terms of video creative?
Thanks, first of all. And I think that we have an amazing team of creative. And it's before I joined Check, so I won't take the credit for it. But I think that the first thing that I noticed when I joined Check and ClickCease is that they have really good processes. And when I'm saying processes, I mean more like a feedback process. They are good listeners, and they always willing to hear more feedbacks and to improve. And they have their own process for feedback 1 and feedback 2 and so on. And everyone could say whatever and whenever he wants. And this is a great process and a great learning experience for all the others. So from creative to creative and from month to month, they are improving as a team. And the assets that they are producing are improving because of the process. So this is the first thing that I noticed when I joined the team. And the second thing is that they are regarding the actors. So most of our videos are ClickCease employees.
Love it.
And
That's
this
great.
is something that like the employees, they love it. And if the video is exploding and succeeding, it's an amazing feeling. Like we have their developers and business operations guys and data employees. like from all the different departments within the company. The sales are the best, by the way. That's
The
my
sales are the
opinion.
best. Yeah, they like
Uh,
it. Uh-huh.
but they really like and enjoying doing it.
Hmm.
Um, and the most, like the top videos of 2022 was employees videos.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's fun
I
for
remember
us.
the one with the it was a girl, I guess maybe that works at ClickCease, but it was basically you guys like to do the cut back and forth, kind of like you see on Instagram and TikTok all the time. But it was her sitting on a chair answering questions to someone. It was great. I actually love this one because it was asking questions that someone that was interested in ClickCease would ask, and then she was answering them through the video, just as if it was a normal conversation, and it was going back and forth. And I thought that was great. I mean, you could do that with in 1,000 different ways, right? But the simplicity of it, I think, is fine. I mean, that probably took a little bit of time to write out some of the questions and answer them. Do the video in probably a handful of minutes, depending on how many takes it took, and then boom, like you've got a pretty good video after a little bit of like post editing to get it into the channel, right?
Sure. So yeah, it's a really good video,
Yeah.
and she's from the CS team,
That's
so
great. That's
so
what
it's
I'm
great.
talking about. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, and and yes, like I think we all familiar with the different platforms, and we know that you need the hook, and you want to show to which persona or audience you're approaching, and you want to
Mm,
show them the problem and your solution and the ease of use and trust and testimonials, and you don't
mm,
have a lot of time. Um, and we are really trying to do it in a fun way,
mm-hmm.
um, a bit funny, but not
Yeah.
um, less quality
Right.
creative.
Right.
Um, but we want to show them the value, but we want to show them the ease of use.
Right.
That you don't
Exactly.
need to be someone which is really tech oriented, or you
Mm-hmm.
don't need to understand the entire fake web in order
Mm,
to use ClickCease and
mm,
to improve your visibility detection,
mm.
um, and so on.
Yeah, I like it. So let me just come back and like see if we can put a cap on this one. So in terms of like creative, it sounds like your creative team, like you were saying, they have a lot of internal processes. Do they kind of cue you into, and if you don't know the answer, totally okay, but do they cue you into, hey, here's the format that we're going to be using for this specific video, and then potentially reuse the same template? And if so, like, do you know what that template is? Like, what's the starting point, middle point, end point in terms of how they organize the video, or is that something you don't get as involved with in terms of creative?
They don't have just one template. They have some
Uh-huh.
best practices, for example, that you want to put the trust slides or a trust part,
Uh-huh.
um, and you want to show. We talked about demo, so you want to show the platform because we don't have a physical product, and it's a challenge for the B2B
Mm,
companies and the SaaS companies. Um, but we don't have a specific template which each creative we are looking at the template, and we are trying
mm,
to customize.
got it. So
We
you've
are
got
always
you got a couple of different ones. So it's not just one. It's a couple of different types of templates, and you guys use it as a guide, right? It's not a black and white list. It's a guide
yeah
to say, okay, here are the core things we need to say, and then
yeah
you might mix it up a little bit differently every time.
but
Makes perfect sense.
exactly, but we are trying all the time to change it and to
Yeah,
see if we can improve the
yeah.
templates that we have and the guidelines that we have. Um, I don't think that it's the best practice to do the exact same things or the exact same templates, because you have different campaigns with different goals, different personas or audiences.
Yep.
You have in your product different features which you want to
Mm-hmm.
change according to your specific ad or creative.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, exactly. And people are gonna have different questions. I mean, that video with one of the ClickCease employees, the girl, walking through those things. Those may have answered some questions for some people, but they may have not answered other questions for other people. So you could do that video 2 or 3 times, answering the top questions that sales gets when someone gets on a ClickCease call and they say, hey, I'm trying to learn more about this thing. Like, how does this work? Or maybe it's support questions that come into the product team when they're in a trial. Those types of things are critical, because if you can answer those ahead of time before they've even converted, they're not only going to convert better later, they're going to be more qualified, and they're likely going to be able to move forward. That'll cut down on product having to do education, answer support questions, and potentially sales having longer sales cycles, assuming that you guys have that motion. Sounds like for you all, it's more so trial, and then I guess there's some sales assist for some of the bigger clients, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. All right, so I want to cover just 2 more things real quick, and then we'll wrap. So one thing I wanted to curious about is in terms of like scaling budgets. Like when you think about scaling your advertising budget, and maybe let's just make this focused on paid social for a second, so we don't run in circles around all the other different ad channels that are out there. But like LinkedIn and Facebook, for example, you guys advertise there. What are the signals that you guys look for? I mean, besides the obvious, right? Clearly leads would be one, but we all know that attribution is not perfect. So are there some other things that you guys look at and analyze and then say, hey, I think we're getting the right signals from this. Let's increase our budget another 5K this month and see what happens, with the goal of XYZ. What's the trigger for that? Or is there a good way that you guys kind of scientifically think about, all right, this is a good point to increase it? Or is it more just, hey, let's try it out, let's see what happens? Like, how do you guys think about that?
Okay, it's a great question. I think that when we're talking about scaling budgets, it's not the best timing, but I always like we
Yeah,
are
2023 and the word scaling budgets is probably like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
But so I think that most of the advertisers will look at scale as a shifting budgets from platform to platform, or from a country or campaigns or audiences. So they will shift the budgets in order to scale, not scale like we saw in the last couple of years.
Agreed.
And I mentioned the timing of it, because the answer will differ if it's a time to be more responsible, or is it time that you could try, test, experiment without insights, or without the best data attribution models, and so on. So different timings requires different decision making, in my opinion. And it's the same regarding scaling advertising budgets. But regarding, like, if I'll put it aside, the timing aspect, then I think that we are all looking at the same main KPIs, and we want scale something that we know that is losing. Unless we want to learn from it, unless we want to drive more brand awareness or something like that.
I think that's always the question, is like, how do you find the losers? Because sometimes it's not so easy when you've got multiple touch points and say, like, this is the one that's causing an issue.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm always trying to look at it in a high level point of view, to make sure that all the different channels, platforms, countries, that the performance looks good, that we are in the right direction towards our goals and strategy and targets. And after that, I can drill down and choose the right places, the right timing to scale in specific platforms, campaigns, regions, and so on. And to do it, I will choose if to do it gradually or just to increase it by a lot, and with the right goals. Like I will think about the goals with my team before I'll do it, and I'll use or create the right creative, the right ad, and choose the right campaigns, ad set, whatever. but we are all
Yeah.
looking at historical data in order to get the best decisions. Historical data could be a churn rate, or average revenue per user, or a lifetime value. And
Hmm.
this will help us to determine if we want to scale
Yeah.
without the current KPIs that we have at the moment.
Got it. Yeah, I'd add only to what you said. I mean, I think there's predominantly really two ways to think about it in like what we see with some of the clients we work with. There's the calculating your target number of leads that you need based upon hopefully downstream conversion rates down to revenue. And you say, all right, this is the amount of contacts, leads, or people that are interested in ClickCease that we need in order to meet our goal for this quarter, for this year. And then you can do some simple math to then figure out, okay, based on historicals from these different platforms, how many conversions are we getting? And you could even further break that down and look at channel by channel, because the conversion rates will likely be different, especially when you look at bottom of the funnel conversions from Google Ads versus LinkedIn versus Facebook, et cetera. But the only issue with this, and this is kind of the typical way that I think anyone scales any channel, is that if you've got a significant amount of budget going into brand awareness, create demand programs, or things that are not as easy to attribute, and it's more about the long-term game, like especially when you're distributing ungated content and things like that, you really need to kind of say, all right, well, wait a minute, we need a different lever to scale paid, because it's not going to scale just based on attributable conversions in the channel. And so that's when you can then say, all right, great. Why don't we start looking at the average CPM, the audience size, our desired impression capture rate, and our desired frequency. And you get those four numbers together, and then you can come up with like some good, better, best scenarios of saying, hey, great. So if we want to reach X amount of our audience, X amount of times, it's going to cost us around this, right? And it's a great way to kind of do some budgeting, because ultimately as marketers, what do we want? We want our messaging and our content to be consumed, and we wanted to reach our ICP ideally. So, that's the way to think about it. And then what we do in that situation is, that's kind of more of a demand gen approach, is then it's looking at the broader funnel. And then you have to say, all right, great, we're still going to measure channel by channel, but we're going to look at the broader funnel. And based upon doing these activities across maybe 2 or 3 channels, we're starting to see some increases in inbound demos. We may talk to the sales team if they use Gong. We may look at the CRM for the self-reported attribution field if they have it, to try to gain some insight. But those are kind of 2 things I would add to your point in terms of like the 2 different ways. There's probably some other caveats here or there, but without making it overly complex, that's kind of what we see. Anything you'd add to that, or do you think generally agree?
I totally agree.
Yeah. Well, cool, my friend. Well, this has been great. I loved chatting for a little bit. I've got even way more questions we clearly went over, but I can't hold you hostage the whole entire night here, especially since it's late your time. But anything we left out, or anything you want to ask me before we jump, or you think we got it all? I think we covered it.
Yeah, from my side, I think we covered it all, but it was great.
Awesome, my friend. Well, then, until we see each other maybe on LinkedIn, or who knows in the future, but let's keep in touch.
Yeah, and come visit Tel Aviv.
Awesome. I will, man. All right. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of the Demand Podcast. Again, I'm Jonathan Bland, the co-founder of Omni Lab. I'll also have with me Jason Steele, who's the other co-founder of Omni Lab on this podcast as well. We're a demand gen agency for seed to Series B SaaS startups. If you like this episode, or you're looking for some help with demand gen, please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn over a DM, or you can go just directly to our website. That's omnilabconsulting.com. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you on the next episode, where we'll be talking about all things demand gen. Until then, thanks. Bye-bye.